Today's podcast with Friendlyjordies is brought to you by my Melbourne International Comedy Festival show, Fergalicious. It's a trades hall from March 30th until April 23, which means if you're listening to this, it is happening right now. Get down. This is my debut show after doing stand-up comedy for 5 years. I'm proud of this hour and I would love you guys to come and see it. Today's podcast is with my friend, Jordan Shanks. Jordan's had the biggest year of his life coming out of witness protection after his house was firebombed. And now, as if it was nothing, just a bit of dirt off his shoulder, he's selling out the biggest comedy venues in Australia. I'm appreciative to be doing these types of podcasts, and it's only possible because of you guys, the listeners. Every single one of you, I'm appreciative. Thank you so much. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell your friends about the podcast. My name's Fergus Neal, and this is the Ferg Neal Show podcast with Mr. Jordan Shanks. Your growth on YouTube, speaking of which, in the last year since I've seen you, has been monumental. Like you've doubled your subs or something now.
Yeah, I guess it's close.
Was it worth nearly dying to double?
Yes.
That's how you know you got to treat YouTube as hard.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I guess me and John are kindred spirits, aren't we? Both of us doing dude. It's a prank. Relax.
How does it feel to be back on stages? Because you took some time off and now you've come back and you're doing stand-up. And does it feel good? Do you feel like a different person after this? And we can get into that later, but the monumental stuff that's happened in your life, are you like, I'm a different Jordan Shanks?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. There's one thing that actually I realized after that. You know, like basically I don't know why, but self-help on YouTube has just evolved into quoting Marcus Aurelius all the time. And he seems to just have one point, which is, you're going to die one day. That's his only piece of wisdom. Look, not to degrade the man. Obviously, I'm a big fan of it as well. I'm just very hipster like that. It was like, I liked Marcus Aurelius before. It was cool. But nothing compares to the moment where you realize, like, no, I could have actually fucking died.
Yeah.
And then when that happens after that, you do get this level of invincibility where you do realize, you've got nothing to fear but fear itself. And after that, I think life just becomes a lot easier. So it was such a sick gift. It was just like, come back mentally stronger, and on top of that, more subs. Which I'm more happy about the subs, frankly, but still, like the wisdom was okay.
Yeah, my
nice siding.
I knew you broken through, and my dad was mentioning you to me. Like, my dad is kind of like a rough older dude. He was like the gardener at my school, and he's like, Jordan.
So was mine.
Oh, really?
Not at my school, actually. Yeah, that's
okay.
next level.
That's weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan was pushing past those journos when you brush past them all in front of your house where they're all like swarming you, and then you say a quote and then move through them. They were just dissipating around you. They were like, it was like they were real in flock energy, weren't they?
Yeah, well, that's them, aren't they? They are vultures. There's a reason that they are called vultures. And that is another gift of the firebombing, was that I got to have that moment that celebrities get of just like, get out of my way, you vultures. Yeah. I loved that. That whole part somehow just magically turned into a movie scene where I just stormed off. And then all the cameras pan to my lawyer, and then he says, what my client was trying to say.
Did journalists react to you differently having gone through that? Like, did you notice they were more empathetic towards you, or they all like, no, this guy burned us over the last 10 years, and now we have to report on him? He's undeniable.
What is their view of that? It's sort of like, I guess that's pretty ballsy. But just to remind everyone, he's a proven liar in court and a racist. So it's this weird mix now of I think it's just broken through to the point where it's like, come on, guys, like, I'm not even trying to do your job, and we do your job better. Like, you're so bad. You're so bad. And I think that they, somewhere deep down in their tiny little consciences, they understand that. I think that's what's happened, which is great because it gives me even more license to be extremely nasty to them. which is, look, far out, man. You're making me reflect on all these great things. And everybody else always would sit at all of that stuff and be like, that's terrible that you have to do that. But no, like any excuse to be nasty to journalists, I'll take it.
Even post-assassination attempt, I'm still going to slap
that was it. You know what happened there? Like, I was not angry at all at the person that firebombed my house. I was just like, well, that's your to and fro of life. But the fact that there was journalists there, I was just like, you? I was just like immediately, like it's so weird. I just have this visceral rage as soon as I see a journalist or a camera.
Well, in their soul, like getting the call up that they had to come to your house and interview you, there would have been some who were very resentful at that because we have to go to this guy and ask him questions, and now you've become the news. That I think they would always want authority on that, that you stole from them.
I think it's actually, you know what, my lawyer had a very good observation about that day because he just looked at it and it was Jemai's friends from, the show Jemai. It was Jemai's friends grown up. It was all just a bunch of private school chicks that were all there with their microphones out. They had no idea who I was. And then I just yelled at them being like, I know your game. I know what you're up to, you scumbags. It's all these 20-year-old chicks just looking at me like terrified. And I just fucked off. And they were like, should I do a follow-up question? I was just like, no, that's all you get. Get out. And they didn't know what to do. And he was just making the point. He's actually very astute about it. It's just like everyone who writes articles, they're your little sociopath nerds with control issues. Anyone who's on TV, it's always just some airhead. They've got a mic and they just go, there's no difference between a TV journalist and one of those journalists that comes up to an MMA fighter afterwards and says, how do you feel about winning? Do you feel good?
Well, did you hear what happened to me and Pat? This is going to break your mind because you've done a lot of reactions to Married at First Sight videos. Yeah. So I went on a podcast by this guy who's some running influencer, big running guy. I pretended I could run, essentially. And I went on that. And then the casting director of Married at First Sight asked if I would come on the show, Married at First Sight. So me and Pat filmed the audition that was meant to go for 10 minutes and we made it last for 2 hours.
How?
We just asked inane questions. We kind of exposed them in a way because they were like, you could tell they were vetting for sociopaths. They were asking me if I'd ever cheated, if like my views on monogamy, and then we put it up, and then they put a manual copyright claim on some B-roll footage, and they said that if we challenge it, then they'll take us to court. So the video no longer exists. But essentially, we got pursued by the worst television show in Australian history. And there's nothing we can do about it. I was speaking to Lewis Spears.
Are powerful.
Lewis Spears was like guiding me throughout the whole thing. And he's like,
why was he your like source of wisdom in that situation? What does he know? Like, dude, if you want to play Warhammer, you talk to Luke. Why are you talking to him about Married at First Sight and how to... Oh, no, actually, to be fair to him, he used to do heaps of... Yeah, this is prank here, the mainstream media.
He was on Kyle and Jackie O this morning. He got cut off. Yeah, because he was talking to Kyle and Jackie O about some Zac Efron thing. And then at the end, he mentioned that he made a joke about Nashville. And then Kyle was like, cut the line, and they cut it. And then, so Lewis is
too
still...
edgy for Kyle and Jackie O. That says a lot.
He's still in the fray.
He's still fighting the good fight.
But Lewis was like the puppet master above me. Like, he was guarding us for sure. He was like, you lasted 2 hours? How the fuck I couldn't even last 2 hours. And he's like, challenge it, go to court. I would do it, but I'm like, I don't think. Sometimes you got to let it go to the keeper, I feel like.
Yeah, well, no, definitely. Look, there's no winners in that one. Let's just say. It's amazing that Lewis Spears has the appetite for that.
Chaos agent.
Yeah. Chaos agent. I can't produce that kind of content.
I felt him running through me.
Huh?
I felt him like running through me. Like his blood was like I had taken on the persona of Lewis Spears to the point where I was fucking with maths to the point where they were threatening us with litigation.
Yeah. It was like you were the guy that's so true.
It was like Ratatouille. He was like guiding.
Yeah.
He's an evil man.
Very tall, large rat in a very, very tall hat.
What was the break like for you? Like, did you feel refreshed from it? Because you've pretty much done YouTube consistently, right? Since you were 23, done stand-up comedy and YouTube since a very young age.
Yeah.
And this was the first time you were forced to have a break, really?
Yeah.
You know, what did it feel like? Did you feel like a normal person again? Or how did
No,
it-
I just wrote my stand-up show.
Okay.
You know what happened? Yeah. I went into witness protection for a month.
Wow.
And everyone was like, yeah, oh my God, that's so terrifying. What's it like in there? It must be a prison cell. And it's always been my go-to point. I wish I was in prison. I don't want to ever leave my house. I just want to sit there with a laptop and complain. And I got to do that for a month straight and had an excuse to just screen every call that came to me. And it was so awesome. Like I've realized this is my happy space is being able to just be as close to an AI machine as possible in terms of production. I hate going to the toilet. I hate eating. If I could just cut all of that out, I swear, if I could swallow a shot put, I'd do it. And that was the closest I ever got to it because I was there, and then every time someone would just be saying like, "Friendlyjordies, can I get a photo?" Something like, "No, you're not allowed to film me." And I just got so many good outs, so many excuses to do things. I don't know. I think I'm just kind of wired for being on the run from the mob. It suits me.
What was witness protection like? Like, did they say immediately after you got fired, I'm like, all right, we're going to put you in witness protection. We're going to move you to an unknown location. Because on The Simpsons, like, witness protection's like Homer moves to Shelbyville. You know what I mean? And he's just like,
yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. That's exactly. It's amazing how accurate The Simpsons is. I always think that that's the whole thing. Like anytime anyone ever says, "Oh, you just think nuclear power is bad because of The Simpsons," or "You just think that running for office is like what it is because of Homer, because of The Simpsons," and it's just, yes, I do, because it's more accurate than a documentary.
But so the month in witness protection, did you feel like it changed your views on anything? Like, did it make you feel like, okay, maybe I won't be full Icarus and fly too close to the sun. Maybe I'll, do more videos on, I know you did a Domino's one recently. Be like, maybe I'll just stick to that as opposed to exposing
reviews.
More Domino's reviews, less reviewing the corruption of Australian elites.
No, I make this point in my stand-up show, actually. I think there's a thing that happens where you have that realization of I could have died. And then I had the realization further than that of, yeah, I'm over 30. I've lived longer than most cavemen. It's all bonus time now. I feel like that's what happens in your 30s. You kind of just, fuck it.
You came in here very relaxed. You were Miss Love. Like, you guys had a good aura about you. We're like, don't reckon this. Just unstoppable. Talking about the laundromat across the road in Geelong. I'm like, these guys seem unfazed. You seemed more stressed last year.
Yeah, I was more stressed. I was way more stressed last year.
You got to put a quality
about, like, I've got to run a business. I'm a very busy man and all that kind of stuff. And then you just, dude, I swear it's such a liberating feeling of like, doesn't matter, dude. Like, you are gonna die. It's nothing you can possibly do matters. And if you go out in a blaze of glory, I think, well, it's better than it's honestly better than sitting around in hospital and then them saying like, can you get up? Can you get up? Because if you can get up, you get to go home. And then it suddenly clicks in your head, oh boy, I'm not getting out of here.
So on that day, you've been making YouTube videos. Where were you when you heard that, there's been a fire at my house? No,
well, usually because my patterns are terrible. I go to bed at 4 a.m. and wake up at 11.
I remember you saying that, yeah.
So I woke up to the incessant knocking on the door, and I was just going out there to be like, I already paid my rent, and and it was Christo, and then he was just like, awfully sorry about your house, and that's how I found out.
Wow.
He started with that, yeah. He was frantically knocking on the door, and he said, sorry about your house, and I said, what are you talking about? And he just flips out his phone and just shows it like on fire.
Wow. Christo was the bringer of the news.
Yeah.
He's like the dude who ran to marathon. Your house is on fire, then he dies.
Yeah, that's him.
And then you rush over there?
He never skips a beat. You
rush over to your house?
No, then after that, I just look at the 100
news.
texts or whatever that I was getting, and then I was just like, yeah, I already knew my house was on fire. Like,
You're still pretty nonchalant about it.
I don't look. I'm telling you, there's things that I'm pathetically scared and fearful of in life, such as even the other day. This was pathetic. I did a story with Channel 10 News.
I saw that.
Yeah, and they tried to make me out like a hero, and I didn't want them to do that. Where at the end they said, "Are you scared of dying?" And I said, "Nah, I'm not scared of death." And it fades out to Sandra Sully just being like, "Hugh Worthington with that report," and that was the end. And it was the one time that a journalist has ever been charitable and nice to me. But even then I was like, no, you did it wrong, because they cut out that immediately after I said, I'm not scared of dying, I said, but I am scared of ghosts. And they didn't want that in there. And I was like, that's all, keep that. That's what I want the people to know. I think for some reason, I'm just not scared of that.
Yeah.
But I'm, irrationally scared of seeing some 10-year-old girl come into my room one day and be like, are you my mum?
Dripping wet. Dripping wet little ghost girl is fucking terrifying for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know why. I really don't.
Yeah.
Maybe it is just the fact that, like, the thought of just being caught in a ballroom dance as this 20s couple because your love was caught short and you just have to do that for all eternity. Just get pretty. I know it's a romantic moment. Yeah. Like after the 50,000th year.
I got a friend who's a primary school teacher, and he says the kids are quite scary. Like, you'll turn around and there'll just be a little girl in the classroom and the door's being locked. You're like, how the fuck did you get in there? How did you get in there? So that's your nightmare.
That happens.
What's your other biggest fear? Ghosts and what else?
What else am I scared of?
A reviewer from The Age. What'd you do if someone came to your show and they were a reviewer from The Age or Sydney Morning Herald and they're like, oh, hey, Jordan, I'm here to review your show?
You know what I'd say this time? Legally, you're not allowed to. Get out.
Really?
Yes, this time around, there's no filming at all of that show. You come and watch that, and then you keep that amongst you. Shut the fuck up about it. You don't tell anyone. That's the show.
Is there stuff in the show that you don't want to have out there on footage?
No, that show is just a one-off. It's just going to be I'm guessing, 20,000 person fight club. You don't talk about it.
How have the audiences of Melbourne been so far?
As always, Melbourne could just be transposed to the 90s and sat in a Seinfeld crowd, and then at the end it just goes like, this was filmed in front of a live studio audience. And that's Melbourne to me. So willing to be on board. Very few other audiences in this country do the whole woo. Those responses.
Yeah, it's like a Jerry Springer reaction.
Yeah. They've got more soundboards than just laugh or silence.
Are people in your family, like, is your girlfriend and like parents like, Jordan, please stop risking the biscuit? You know what I mean? Do they say like, can you pull back? We love you. Please don't get firebombed again.
Well, here's your tip to life, Fergus. You just don't talk to your family. It's very few people that can tell you that. It's just my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, well, what do you care about? At this point, we're just like a de facto couple. You get all my money. Who cares? Marry again. You'd be at that point. Like, by the time I die, you'd be like 37, and then you can just marry a pizza boy. Just get your nice little toy boy. She did say that, and I thought, yeah, maybe I should ease back on it. But I honestly think that was just a fluke of a situation, of the fact that that's what happens when your government is pretty much the same as the government in Saints Row 4. And now we don't have that. It's a very niche reference for everybody, but it was just, you got to see the front cover of Saints. He knows.
Yeah, Pat knows it.
That guy knows. But Saints Row 4, you've got to see the front cover of it. It's amazing. It's just the president's motorcade car And then there's like all these hot bitches with like rifles and shit just shooting out of it. And then like a few gangsters and one guy with like the president's seal and the nuke codes there with like this golden gun just going. Dude, that was New South Wales.
Because I thought that was because your Mislav walked in here so relaxed. Mislav is like drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes with some older Greek men right now as we speak, probably.
Yeah.
You guys aren't scared of like any targets really now. You kind of just like, we got to live our lives at some point. We can't live in fear.
No, well, I swear to God, there was just no fear of it. I'll tell you what fears me. Actually, this is another fear of mine.
From a little
doing
girls.
Louis Spears' shit. I really, you know what I hate? I hate going into those situations like the Louis Theroux stuff or actually the John Saffron thing of just, hi, I'm on your side. And psych, I'm actually not. Fuck you. You're going to have that.
Yeah, have that too.
That scares me. I really can't do that stuff. I'm more of a just walking in. I'm more of your Paul Keating type. So I'm nowhere near as good at it as he is, obviously. But I like just walking in, guns blazing, hurls of abuse, walking out. I can do that.
What did you think about Paul Keating destroying the media and his own party? Did you enjoy it?
Wasn't it amazing?
It was pretty cool. It was just journalists coming out one after another and just the roast. It was so good. I can't believe they signed up for it. They're like, because they would have seen, it's like going into an abattoir. You see the person in front of you get destroyed. The Sydney Morning Herald person, he said straight to his face, like, you shouldn't be in journalism. He's like, if I were you, I'd never show my face again in a public place.
And what a soulless, spindly, twiggy little nerd he was.
He had the glasses you mention all the time in your shows. Yeah.
That cold, dead stare of... couldn't sell his soul to Costello because he didn't have one in the first place. He's horrible. Like, he just, everything about that man, was like, it was immediate. Like, Paul Keating didn't have to roast him. You already hated him. And then Paul Keating decimated him.
The Sky News chick, though, I felt almost the first time I felt bad for Sky News because he's like, you're at Sky News, but you're also handing out resumes. Like, you don't want to be here. He's like, just tell me you don't want to be here, do you? Just say to camera.
Brutal.
What did you think about him going at elbow, though? Were you kind of like, oh, man, don't do that? Or were you kind of like, this is interesting?
Well, I think I see both sides of the argument very well, actually, which is, and I know because my podcast audience, I've talked about this before, and they went ape shit at me. And I, surprise, surprise, still think I'm 100% right. And
never fear.
Never fear. Here's the rundown, right? Because this is what people never put into this calculation. Yes, Paul Keating is 100% right. It has made the world a much more dangerous place. It's a terrible... You really aren't even paying for subs. You are just paying for advertising and the idea that you've got Britain and America in your favour. It's really what it is. Actually, is just an old school, because this is the world that people need to understand. When people are always saying, "Oh, Albo's gutless and he's not standing up to the empire," yeah, dude, because the empire has an emperor. And you are a province of that empire. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be voting for a governor of that province, but you have to understand the office. You are. It is the same as when long-haired freaks at university used to campaign to get on the student union to end the war in Iraq. It's like, I think that's a bit above your office, dude.
So you think it's almost like the subs represent us still maintaining Western alliance, and if we cut that off, we could get absolutely mauled by another superpower?
No, I don't think it's got anything. I think it's like, in fact, it's the opposite way. It has made the world much more dangerous by doing it. Exactly like what Paul Keating was saying. He was absolutely right about it. It's stupid. It's needlessly antagonistic to China, especially because China, as he says, and this is also another extremely unpopular point, but it's just the facts, China has been playing an extremely defensive game this entire time, and they are hemmed in by the US empire. However, you have to understand that we are the hobbling little henchmen behind the scientist. That's our role. And that's where we are. And if this is what happens, nobody ever mentions this. Gough Whitlam stood up to the Americans. Kevin Rudd stood up to the Americans. Everyone says, oh, yeah, good for them. Guess what? They didn't even get a term, not one. They were both cooed.
Yeah.
It's both revealed in Julian Assange WikiLeaks and also just from a bunch of CIA leaked documents at this point. You go up against the American empire, you get cooed. And then you have all these idiots in the comments of my podcast about it, and they're all saying, oh, Friendlyjordies would advise Simon Crean to stay in the Iraq War. Well, no, I wouldn't, because in the Iraq War, George Bush said on multiple occasions to John Howard, you really do understand you don't have to do this. Like, this is a piss weak force that you are offering. This is absolutely, like, we're going in regardless. So they didn't care about that. And then the other one is, you'd advise Arthur Cowell to stay in Vietnam because of political expediency. Wow. What great heroes of the Labor Party they're propping up. 2 losers. That's the mentality of these kind of people online. It's always this idea that, you know what, you should stand up there and like stand up against the empire. Yeah, you can do that, but guess what else happens then? You get degraded hospitals. You get privatized institutions. You have an entire bureaucracy that is outsourced to consultants and is getting paid double to do absolutely nothing except turn Sydney into Blade Runner 2049. You get no action in climate change. Even worse, you get no action on the environment. All the public institutions are basically reared to become protection rackets. You don't have things like Labor coming up with the really genius ideas. Obviously, the Greens are just, no, shut up. The idea that they're putting in $10 billion to generate this fund that just allocates public housing that builds up over time.
Okay.
You just have this endless fund that is constantly building houses. That if you remove that, that is an instant kind of like a Medicare trigger where the electorate would be like, no, that's like, it's not costing us anything and you're getting all of this public housing and it's alleviating it. This is a long-term strategy. You don't have these long-term strategies getting put in place. I could keep going down the list. You wouldn't have 30% agreement on methane reduction. There's no way the Liberals would have signed that. There's no way that they'd be transforming the energy grid. There's no way that they'd be conserving huge ecosystems. There's no way that they'd be rebuilding our education system to be competitive with countries like Korea and Japan. All of that would be out the window. And why? Because you said, I know what the US is up to and I'm not paying their protection money. Fuck off. Like, you're just not... You're a dickhead, and there's a reason that you're online with no followers.
I feel like
there's like
that was amazing. Most verbose political assessment I've ever. John Saffron didn't do that for sure.
But again, I understand where Paul Keating's come from.
Yeah.
He's not wrong about his assessment at all. There's 2 things that I would add to it, which is actually something that one of these a Labor guy that we talked to. He was saying, yeah, obviously he's right, but why is he going after Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese for signing the deal with the devil when these are parts of, and this is something that I will say, you can't even be critical of the Labor Party for it because this is just realpolitik, right? Like, when Whitlam was dismissed in 1975, after that, the CIA started infiltrating the union movement and the labor movement because they realized these guys can actually gain power. There is there is a rite of passage that certain labor politicians take, and it's like this, once they do it, they've got this little seal of approval from the CIA, and it's just this thing that constantly says that they're our guys, we can trust them with that. Now, the Liberal Party doesn't have to do it, and the Liberal Party doesn't have to do it because they're fucking morons, and they just do whatever power tells them to do.
Yeah.
So they don't have that weird rite of passage that there's this infiltration in the Labor Party that has happened with that. Now, Keating must be aware of that, and my only critique would be, why don't you go after your Mark R. Beebs of the Labor Party? This is the guy that sunk Kevin Rudd. Yeah. Why don't you go after that CIA faction of the Labor Party if you're going to make that point? Because I think that he just held back from all of it until he made that connection, which is, you don't sign this document. I mean, for fuck's sake, I actually genuinely believe this, and I know that a lot of people are going to say, yeah, it's all conspiracy, but man, I reckon Kennedy's head was blown off from those. Like, I reckon they down their own president for sure. Why not? They do it to every other country on earth all the time. Yeah.
It's amazing how, I did an interview with Kathy Lett, who her husband is a human rights lawyer, and they harbored Julian Assange in the UK. And they said that during that time, it was so obvious that the CIA were tapping everything in their house. Like, it was so obvious.
So obvious. They weren't even good at it.
Well, I think it was almost like phones were working weirdly. Like, there were obviously stuff on their phones that were like monitoring what they were saying. Like, they just felt devices were running slower for some reason, which apparently is a sign that there might be some like malware on that device. You know, there were weird things when Julian was staying with them where they're like, you know, cars.
It disappeared when Julian Assange wasn't
Yes, cars driving past a lot. Like, well, there was a CIA plot to kill Julian Assange. Like, that's come out.
Where?
Yeah, where like they were plotting to kill him. That was like on a whiteboard somewhere where it said kill Julian Assange.
Well, that's an option for people that go to work in their white ties and their collars and they sit there and they think about, like how like NAB would think about their next quarter investments or something, and they sit there and be like, okay, so what do we do here? Do we make his life a living hell? Do we bug him? Kill him? We can always kill him. Just put that one up as a maybe.
Pat, can you Google that? I'm pretty sure that's true. That I just want to make sure that CIA plotted to kill Julian Assange. I'm 99% sure.
Because again, this is not surprising behaviour from the CIA. This is what they do.
You talk to anyone in South America, like you mentioned the CIA, they shudder. Like they're like, that organization, the influence it has had on South American politics. What does it say?
CIA officials under Trump discussed assassinating Julian Assange.
They discussed
amazing. Just a casual conversation.
Pretty baller to have that conversation. Like, we need to kill this guy.
I mean, I think CIA gets that level of reverence, don't you think? Where it's like, yeah, they're evil, but like they do it in style.
It's a wild thing that Trump hasn't been killed yet. You know, even like with all this pursuing him over criminal charges, you wonder, like, he flies too close to the sun. Surely he keeps calling out deep state. Surely someone in the deep state has to be like, okay, this is enough, and just flick his head off. Why wouldn't that happen?
I think, first off, because the deep state that he's discussing is fantasy land, pedophile vampires.
Yeah, it goes a bit QAnon-y, you reckon?
I mean, it is QAnon. That's where we all know that that's how Trump works. These people like me, so I'm going to repeat what they say.
Pretty good political tactic.
So he's not actually talking. The actual CIA spooks, they're in his office every day. He's the president of the United States, having meeting after meeting with him. And so those guys are on the level. But they're the ones that are talking about drone strikes and talking about, all right, let's influence this election in El Salvador or whatever. I don't know. Like that kind of stuff. When it comes to the deep state that he's talking about, this is a fabrication of people with far too much time on their hands. And he's kind of just baiting them into talking about it. So this is not really a threat. In fact, it's the exact opposite of a threat to the CIA because it's just diverting attention away from the actual conspiracy.
Do you feel like since Labor's taken control of Australia, you know, obviously apart from Tasmania, do you feel like less inclined to talk about politics or more inclined? Because like, we have to maintain this.
No, there is a bit of sandbagging, but I also think... Man, looking at that map, isn't it amazing that our map is actually that 2016 Jeb Bush meme? You know, where it's just a shot of him going, and in a landslide, Jeb Bush has won every state in 2000.
Well, it's wild because I remember even like the venue I'm doing my comedy fest show was at Trades Hall, and my dad took me to a party in 2007 when Kevin Rudd won at Trades Hall, and it was the most nuts party. They were burning John Howard effigies. Like there was so much celebration in the air because Labor had been out of power for 12 years.
Yes.
And now it's kind of like they've just smoothed their way in.
Yes.
You know, it feels kind of like just trickling water and people are just happier with this government.
Yes.
But it's not like a massive celebration. It's just like, oh, things are better.
Yes.
Thank God.
Well, it's because Kevin Rudd went down the man of destiny model that the Labor Party has. The Labor Party has throughout history all of these huge cult of personality figures, and there was an electricity that Kevin Rudd generated throughout the country, and you felt it obviously.
Yes,
because I felt it the same in Sydney. People were dancing in the street when Kevin Rudd was elected.
Kevin 07 was huge.
Kevin 07 was huge.
Yeah, Rove,
massive. Electric.
Yes,
I would say it was an electric victory. Whereas Anthony Albanese has gone down the much more practical, much better model.
He's kept his head low.
Kept your head low, John Howard thing, just kind of sneaking in. Oh, you're still here 12 years later. That's the way that you... Power is silent. Power is silent. Power does not like loud noises. It's the
Yeah.
same model all through. Trump is another one. Just these huge explosions that happen. And they will always have their big cult of personality figure around them, right? Like it's the same with Kevin Rudd.
Yeah.
On a smaller scale, obviously, because it's Australia. And he's not as like unhinged and flamboyant as Trump. But there's still that feeling around him of this guy's going to guide us to the promised land.
Yeah.
And he tried. But again, he got cooed.
Yeah.
Having said that, he has done a lot out of office that is incredible for the world. In fact, right now, as the ambassador, his main goal is to try and stop China and the US from having a nuclear war. Like,
Yeah.
he does a lot of great things. But in terms of just practically running a government, especially in Australia, you want to give off the feeling that your opponent is kind of just like, look at this smug cunt. He thinks he's better than everyone. You know, like tall poppy is a real thing. That's what I noticed when I got all the subscribers. Because they
Okay.
all came from America. And the Americans are so supportive. And I just thought, oh, okay, the life of being a YouTuber is just 10 years of this endless hell of all of these people. Just Jesus on the cross getting whipped by the Romans. That's your entire life, just getting constantly flayed. And then I realized, no, this is just Australians. It's just whiny.
Yeah.
It's such a windbags. So in that environment, yeah, you've got to do it like that. That's very true on the national level. However, I will tell you this. When New South Wales Labor won, there was a bit of a feeling of the Kevin Rudd thing.
Okay. I really didn't think Perrottet was going to lose. I don't know why. I just had it in my mind that he was steadfast. Even when they said he was going to lose, I was like, I just had a feeling. I'm like, I just feel like New South Wales has been Liberal for so long. It's hard to imagine it being red. You know what I mean? It's hard to imagine that state being red when it's been Gladys for that amount of time.
Yes.
It feels very weird.
Weird to me now.
Yes.
It barely is red, you know,
Yeah.
minority government. But again, that is the way that the Labor government gets in. It always gets in on this slide into power, slim majority works its way up, whereas the Liberals, because they've got the press on their side, they always cascade in,
Yeah.
decimate the entire parliament. There's 3 Labor politicians, and then through time they chip away at their majority because they're just conmen, basically. And so the public starts to get wise to it. And then, because the Labor Party actually governs correctly, the electorate just keeps doling them out a little bit more. But with the Perrottet thing, got to say, felt the same way about Dan Andrews this time. And he won in an absolute landslide.
Yeah.
And it's because when you're just reading the papers every day and they're just favouring, well, they weren't even, I can't even remember the guy's name. His name was Guy, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was Matthew Guy.
Matthew Guy.
Yeah, lobster. The Lobs King. He had a lobster meal with that mobster.
Yes. Yes.
He was a shady dude. You could see it in his eyes. He'd done some dark shit.
Bags under
Yeah. Yeah, he'd done some shady shit.
It's so
in Victoria.
Melbourne, isn't it? You know what I just noticed about Melbourne?
What?
I always thought that Melbourne was just filled with a bunch of Adam Bant stunt doubles. Just in case you shoot the real one, we can't have that. And you know what I realised? No, that's just Fitzroy.
Yeah, it's really compartmentalized to one part.
Yeah.
Most of Melbourne is, they're not
It's the
too green.
Docklands.
Yes.
You know what it is? It's 20 Chicago. It's such a nice, gritty,
Yeah.
just change Gotham City and Batman to Melbourne. It's such a, you know what I always notice every time I go to a big city? I'm always looking at the skyscrapers because whatever's advertised on those skyscrapers, that's what runs this town, gee. And so when you go to Perth, it's obviously just filled with mining companies.
Rio Tinto and stuff
Rio
like
Tinto
that.
and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And then when you go to Sydney, it's filled with accounting firms and banks. And then you come to Melbourne and it's filled with unions, the cops, and Crown Casino. How sick is that? Like, it's just such a... Feels like everyone should be in pinstripe suits with a hat, just being like, "Now you're going to roll some craps, or ain't you?" You know, like it's an old. The other day, I was just walking down the street, and there was all these burly cunts with like the Southern Cross on them, just screaming union power, and it's like, that's not what a union in Australia is anymore, anywhere except Melbourne.
Yeah. My
It's
dad
still
said
these
that.
gritty-
Yeah. Well, my dad was in like, we would go to his picket line when he was working as a gardener, and he was like, it's the little things. I'm like, oh, why do they care if their coffee goes from like whatever blend to like Nescafe? And he's like, because it's a little thing, and then that turns into another thing. It's like, if you let one thing slip, they'll take everything away. So you've almost got to protest the coffee. Or else that shows that they have that power over you.
That's incredible.
You know, it's like little dynamics.
That's such a Victorian attitude.
Yeah.
That's what I realized. Like this place is, I always thought that this is just Greens country. It's really not. It's heavy Labor territory, this place.
There's definitely a few people with blue hair who are scary.
Yeah, well,
they're my scariest audience. If I see someone with blue hair in the audience, I'm like, oh, fuck. I would rather have a demo than, you know, someone who's going to yell out at you.
Because Damo knows how to have a good time.
Yes. Damo's relaxed. I was in like a group of people and there was someone who I didn't really know that well in the group and we were all laughing. And then she's like, guys, how are you laughing when there's a war in Ukraine? I was like, who the fuck are you? You can't just...
And also, as we all know, Ukraine is funny. Dude, that's incredible. I can't believe that someone said that.
Bring you down to their level, they're like, I'm depressed about this, therefore I'm more virtuous than you, so you should be feeling depressed about it. It's like, you don't have to be sad all the time thinking about the worst shit possible in the world. You know, you can just enjoy a meat pie.
That's it, isn't it?
And have fun.
Victorian attitude is just like, nah, you're not getting my Nescafe. and Fitzroy's attitude is, I think I'm a worse person than you and therefore I'm better. Just wall it off like Palestine, don't you think? It should be completely disregarded.
Well, Fitzroy's... Did you see all that TikTok stuff with the Fitzroy Garage Party and all that? There's a weird war going on in Fitzroy now where it's kind of gone from it's interesting. It's probably the two worst groups. It's like the elite private school kids are moving in, and now the lower private school kids who wear like denim and would put on music events and try and be cool and pretend their parents weren't shareholders.
Yeah, okay.
They're having a war for Fitzroy. It's truly they're having a fight for Fitzroy. It's this weird like class war within the same tax bracket. You know what I mean? It's going on right now. And it's so fun to watch from the outside. Just these people losing their minds. It's like...
Yeah, wait, who's the other faction again? Who's the non-denim ones?
Just elite private school kids coming in from Kew and Hawthorne. They want to live in Fitzroy.
Why do they want to live in Fitzroy?
I think because, I don't know.
They lost that war, surely.
No, they're back in now. So now... So it's pretty funny. It's all these dudes who are so well dressed, RMs, like just like intergenerational, so wealthy they don't know they're wealthy. And then these like people screeching and being like, this is our area, you shouldn't come here. And they're just oblivious to it. And they're currently fighting for the heart of Fitzroy. And there were just these junkies who have been there for like 20 years who were just like in Narnia, I guess, like the little thorns in between.
Yeah.
The real battle.
Why is it that elite private school kids always want to live in junkie town?
I don't know.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think because they have all coffee shops there now.
Yeah, but
it's like
you can make coffee shops anywhere, especially when you have money like they do.
In my show, I talk about in Geelong, we elected Darren Lyons to mayor right after he won Celebrity Big Brother.
Oh, yeah.
Like that trajectory has never happened before where we elected this guy who had a fake six-pack. Into office.
So happy about that.
With no challenge whatsoever.
Really?
Like he was just like, look, I'm going to fix the town. And he didn't fix the town, but we just believed him 100%. He just came out and was like, yeah, I was in the tunnel with Princess Diana. I was the one who took the photos. Like he's just this dude who was just a bogan monster.
What a king. That guy was the one that was, he was taken out of office and the state government had to come in and say, look, we can't trust you people with democracy anymore. You're not allowed to elect a mayor.
He was Mayor Quimby. Like he wore his robes everywhere. I'm sure he was having orgies behind the scenes. Like, you know, when the door opens and just all these beautiful women and like all the town's money have been spent on fountains.
Yeah. With the little thing that says community pool cement and he's making it for his fountain.
He had that vibe. But yeah, I think he was one of the first ever mayors who the state government's like, we've got to end this. We've got to end this psychopath.
I can't believe, I didn't know that happened.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Like a government could actually sit in and just say, you people, like... People always claim that they've lost faith in the government. Well, the government has lost faith in you as people, and rightfully so. You don't get to make decisions anymore.
He was what made me think that Trump could happen because it's like this is just this dude.
Was he before?
Yeah, he was before Trump. He was pre-Trump.
Yeah,
and I was like, he's like a true populist. He would just lie. He would just lie to the Geelong Advertiser and be like, "I'm gonna give you a new train to Melbourne," and we'd be like, "Yeah." He's like monorail, and then he would just not. He just wouldn't build
Holy
it.
shit!
His ex-wife follows me on Instagram, and I'm so curious by her. She's like a Geelong model, someone like that who. Yeah, they were engaged.
Oh, so he was married to someone who was like 20, was he?
Yeah, like Bimbo.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, we're all jealous of that life, right?
It would be pretty good to just turn your conscience off and just have the best life ever.
He did it.
He did it. He didn't have any qualms about.
How good is that as well? It really says something about someone's psychology. I mean, getting a six-pack says enough about your psychology, right? There's two people that do that. It's either drill sergeants or like roid addicts, right?
Yes.
Like, and so there's it's kind of like if you're a bald man where you're either a Hare Krishna or you're like a criminal, yeah? Like there's they're either really nice or psychos.
Yeah.
Dude, a fake six-pack is just next level, isn't it? Because it's, what is that saying? It's saying, I am not going to put in any effort at all to get the six-pack. Just give me the immediate end result now.
Just glue it on.
Glue it on. And if someone is wearing that.
Yeah. And he was pretty fat at the time as well. He
was.
Yeah. He looked like a Ninja Turtle.
He did.
He'd done no work whatsoever on himself. He's just like, just glue a six-pack on me. I'm going to be mayor. Oh, is that what that's what he looks like. Yeah. So cool.
Such a boss.
The pink hair. He didn't do any damage to the town. Like he was on like Sunrise every second day. If anything, he got more tourists coming down. Because he's like, come look at my bollards.
Such
and
a
he'd just be like
figurehead.
thrusting on a bollard and people in Melbourne would be like, I got to go down and see that. You know what I mean? Like, he brought tourists ashore.
That's such an apt observation. Jesus, how's this for a Friendlyjordies moment? Speaking of The Simpsons, but the what you were just talking about before, but that episode of Homer running for sanitation commissioner, isn't that such a great critique of democracy? It's so true. People will always vote for the guy promising that they're going to come in and change your baby's nappies.
Yes.
And they're going to 24-hour garbage pickup. It could all happen. They'll always pick that over someone sitting there just being like, I have 20 years experience in this very finicky, very boring, hard job.
What goals do you have for the next 6 months? Like, is there anything in terms of content that you want to... For some reason, I feel like you're leaning... Like, Julian Assange has come up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you've shown interest in that case. Do you think there's a possibility that Albo would try and pardon him? Or do you think he's kind of... It's too lock and step?
Well, again, it's not up to him. But he has been petitioning behind closed doors to get Assange out. I don't think he's going to be successful. I think that Joe Biden would want him out. But this is what people need to understand about all of this. You should not be getting angry at a prime minister for CIA decisions. In fact, you shouldn't even be getting angry at a president for CIA decisions. That is the true deep state where these things are much deeper than them. And I think that actually, if you read Obama's book, it becomes very obvious that Joe Biden was the voice of reason within that administration. Okay. And there's whole chapters where Obama was like, I was with my friends, the CIA, and we were talking about drone strikes and we were having a great time. And then my stupid vice president came in and broke up the meeting and gave me a different point of view. It was very inconvenient. Like, Joe Biden is very wary of the CIA. He hates them because he realized after the Iraq War that they convinced him that the Iraq War was a good idea, and he realized he'd been conned by them.
Do you think he's still there now, though? Like, do you think he's still doing that? Like, I don't know if that's the media perception, but you just get the perception that he's gone. Like, he's just vacant now and that he doesn't have those insights still that he had under Obama.
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
I think that all of that is... A lot of that is just media hype, right? It's the same thing as just showing him sniffing a girl's hair and then zooming in and being like, confirmed pedophile. It's a bit of a jump, you know?
Have you ever had people from like state, like ASIO or like anybody within state approach you, like even since the firebombing and like say, hey, this is what you can do to better off yourself, or this is what you can do? Has anybody ever approached you from that world?
From Spook World?
Yeah, like ASIO world?
No. Christ, no. Those people don't approach anyone.
Yeah.
Ever. No, that's a complete mystery world.
Yeah, because interesting, because you're quite critical of the New South Wales police, like in terms of certain.
Well, hey, hang on. Let's be very clear about this.
Yeah.
I was critical of a police unit. I
Yes.
am not one of those. ACAB, yeah, fuck cops. Fuck the guy on 50 grand that comes in and breaks up domestic violence abuses and risks his life. Like that guy sucks.
Yeah, that's a very
I think you've got it the wrong way around. I think you suck, dude.
That's why when people are saying defund the police, I'm like, I think the underfunding is the issue. Like you've got guys who've done like a 6-month course who are often from quite working class backgrounds who just come into it, $50K a year, don't have the training and are put into situations where it's like, how's someone who's, got trauma on a day-to-day basis going to react to this?
I know. I really do think that the average police officer, every time, it's also like whenever I do some Google review of cops, it's hilarious because every time.
That'd be Miss Love. Miss Love's coming in hot.
Here we go.
Press the key. Look at him on the screen.
I can't see.
Imagine
Too much light reflection.
there are 4 other older Greek men.
There we go.
Did it open for him?
Yeah.
He'll come in.
That classic confused boomer face that Miss Love has where they've taken a photo for their Facebook profile and not understood that the flash went off.
Yeah, and then if you press that mic button, it'll turn off the mic so then we don't just translate. That bottom left. Yeah, that one. You got it, yeah. Then we're not just... This isn't broadcast onto the street. They're like, is that Friendlyjordies? On Arthur... Oh, I shouldn't say I'm Australian, but... Is that Jordies? What were we saying before Miss Love?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Google
Cops.
reviews of cops.
Yes. That
Go
exists.
read them anytime. You'll see 90% of them complaining that there's no justice in this world. The person in their comment complaining about the cops is admitting to what I know is a crime. They're committing a crime and then saying, and then I got arrested. Can you believe them? They're fucking filth. That's the reason cops hate them because again, it's always just like, everyone always just thinks they're just like, I'm in my universe.
Welcome. Welcome back. How was it?
Of course, he got a tiny little bottle of chili sauce. That is the most mislove thing I've ever. Thank you for that. Of course, that's there. This little Barbie doll.
Where did you get that from?
Look at him.
I got some.
Oh my god!
I got some nice oysters on what's the road called?
Station Street.
On Station
Oh,
Street.
you went to that like the butchers.
Yeah, I know.
Biavano.
That's fucked. Oysters
like
at a butcher.
This Italian dude who's been there since the 60s.
I don't want to interrupt, but
No, go for it.
I had a nice like a cabbage roll from some cafe, and I was just like, how often do you get to eat oysters in bloody Melbourne? Let's see how they compare to Sydney Rock, and they're not as good. Putting it out there. And
We're quite far from a beach.
Yeah, I got the boss man a coffee, and of course this adorable little tiny bottle of chili. But I won't interrupt anymore.
Dude, it is incredible. As soon as Miss Love ever enters the building, it just turns into SBS food.
We've been going over an hour. I feel like that's almost... Pat, do you have any questions that I feel like we haven't asked Jordies? I feel like we've covered...
Not off the top.
Yeah, I feel like we've covered it all. We've covered... I mean... Yeah, I feel like... So now you pass... I mean, obviously... The show Bros, like imagine you're talking about a certain individual within that show and that's why you don't want to broadcast.
Yeah.
But how, so do you reckon you're still on that, like how long is Bros going to be in your zeitgeist for? Is it a forever thing? Like you'll be in the retirement village and just...
Yeah, because he's such an idiot. I think that's why. It's just every single time, I really need to make this point.
Yeah.
I have been China. I have not been escalating the situation. That is always him.
Yeah.
He's the one that keeps doing stupid things, even out of office, and I can't not resist. It's like what I'm saying in this show. I mean, look, it's grown-up Yilmaz, who is in charge of a state. How are you supposed to ignore that?
We haven't said his name, but what's he doing now? Do you know what's he working as now?
That's amazing. I don't think he's working as anything.
He's just
I
chilling.
think his name is too toxic to get employed.
Yeah, because there were like things that he was going to join like a soccer federation or something. Like he was going to be the head of FIFA, which would have been great.
Was that his plan, wasn't it? And he was also going to be the head of NRL.
Yeah,
Isn't that
yeah.
amazing? This is the way
You can fail
liberals and
upwards.
nationals think. Exactly. I'll enter politics so I can become a footy chairman.
Yeah.
And I get to sit in a sky booth. That's their end goal. That is how the coalition thinks.
It's
They're
a cushy
just
job.
Untalented corporate middle managers
Yes.
that want their excuse to get on the boards where they get to sit there and have little pastries all day.
It's amazing to exhibit like terrible corruption and just like you're flailing at your job and then you get appointed as the CEO of this multinational soccer federation. Like that's possible.
Yeah, but look, it would be with FIFA.
True.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he'd fit in well.
Fuck, FIFA is dirty.
Yeah, they're bad. I told you that individual, his after we did our last podcast, his daughter followed me for a while. Like I
Yeah.
saw this, I'm like, oh, who's this? I'm like, whoa. I saw the surname and I'm like, this is into family. And I'm like, why would you do that? But I think it was, I don't know, just keeping an eye on.
Oh, I know. I can tell you things off the podcast. About
Okay,
that.
holy shit.
That's pretty cool.
Have you
See that?
seen shit that like you're like, I can never talk about this until I write a memoir when I'm 60?
Yeah, fuck yeah. I've got heaps of that. Lots of that.
Wow. Far
No,
out.
I don't even think I'll be able to write it. That goes to me with the grave. You know? It just kind of is what happens. I hate when people always say that about politicians as well, that you can tell they're lying. Yeah, when you are privy to a bunch of state secrets, you have to lie a lot.
You can't talk about the aliens.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Anthony Albanese came out and said, look, I don't agree with this AUKUS deal. I think it's terrible and Paul Keating has the right go, but I'm going to sign it anyway because I'm scared of getting shot in the head.
It would be a beautiful moment in Ozpol. He came out and was like, look, I'm scared. I'm scared of dying like Kennedy, having my head blown off in a motorcade.
Hey, actually, I've got a question for you. Do
Yeah.
you think that happened?
You
know what my entire basis of this is? I just saw JFK recently again.
Okay.
That's it.
Conspiracy, yeah.
Do you think it's true?
I haven't read that much about it, but I think it's quite a funny idea that they'd be like, hey, John, it's going to be a motorcade today through a city with the most guns in America. Like, alarm bells aren't ringing at that point. You're in a convertible with your head nicely popped up.
I know.
Sailing through the city, doing laps. Let's do laps.
Slowly.
Yes, with tall buildings around us. Like, you think that the Secret Service would be like, all right, this isn't happening. I think there was something that went on there. But, I mean, yeah, you'll never know. I just always remember the Seinfeld episode where it's like the two, where Kramer gets spat on. Do you remember that episode? And they analyze it from both
That's
sides.
so good. That was gold. That was amazing.
So I reckon there were 2 bullets, but yeah, he probably did get done. The Bobby Kennedy documentary is great if you watch that. He's probably one of my political heroes.
Yeah?
He's got such a cool story, but then he was done in as well. And I think the guy who shot him, who's now alive in prison, underwent like psychosis because I don't remember what happened. I was just a chef, like immigrant to the country, like doesn't really have a clue when they think it could have been like a psyop. That's my conspiracy around.
Whoa.
Yeah, Bobby Kennedy
What,
probably
do you think
got
they
dumb.
just programmed, Manchurian candidated him?
I think he probably got, programmed. He doesn't remember anything.
Holy hell.
Yeah, had never shot a gun in his life prior to that. Like, I think like they got inside his head and was like, you're going to shoot Bobby Kennedy. We can't have him winning the presidency.
Just
Because
like
at that point, he was
Zoolander.
the favorite to be president as well. A lot of people forget that. There's going to be
of course,
another
right?
Kennedy in office.
Yeah, how could you lose?
What a
with that
family.
name?
The Kennedys keep, even that other Kennedy now who's got the voice, like the Kennedy curse, where they just keep getting, have you seen, what's that Kennedy's name? Ted Kennedy? Where like he took something and now his voice is, he can barely speak. Have you heard of this guy?
What are you talking? What?
Have you heard of this guy? Pat,
Ted
can you
Kennedy's
Google him?
dead, isn't he?
There's one Kennedy who's still alive.
Yeah.
And he's
Kennedy Jr.
Robert
Robert
Kennedy,
Kennedy.
Jr.
Wait, does he have this voice?
His voice is it's like a robot because I mean, I don't want to get demonetized, but like he had a vaccine.
Yeah.
Ages ago.
I always knew that there was something iffy about that. Finally, we're getting to the real issues.
This might have to
here,
get cut, but-
2 years late. You know what? We're not, though. Every boomer comedian always comes
Yeah.
up to me and they're just like, oh, I got banned from TikTok just because of my views of COVID.
I think I know.
Single one.
Is this at the Comics Lounge? I think I know the exact comedian. Who said this to you
but hey,
verbatim?
one of many.
Yeah.
One of many.
Yes.
There's so
There are a
many
lot.
of them. There's so many. It's such a boomer view, wizard. It's just like, I don't trust that shit. But here's my view. It's just the death thing. I'm just like, yeah, if it kills you, so what? Like, it's too many people anyway. Just fucking go.
That's Ms. Love, not us.
Mislav does have the most ethnic boomer views you could ever imagine. So good. So good.
Will there ever
I'm
be-
still not sold on Labour because the flag is red and in my country that was communist.
How did you two become best mates? Did you guys go to high school together?
Because
Is that right?
I'm telling you why. Because we are both just ethnic old men that while everyone else was playing soccer, we sat on milk crates being like...
Do people from your high school look at your success? How do they view it?
I don't know. He'd know. I don't know.
Okay. Are they like, boys, get us in? Or is
They're
it-
stoked. They're stoked for him.
yeah.
Everyone I've spoken to is like, "Go Jordies, go, for sure."
Yeah.
Yeah. I
They're
think
cheering him
all-
on.
Yeah, they're all cheering him on. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a couple of
There'd
like,
be so many of them that are just, problematic.
well, yeah, probably like half. No, no, I don't know. Maybe not that many. I don't know.
We went to school in Fitzroy,
Okay. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You know, they're very into it. There's a couple, we went to our school reunion,
Oh,
and he just got cornered by like,
You two walking into the school reunion
yeah, he got
would have
cor-
been epic.
No. My old mates were just sort of like, oh, like what fucking bands have you seen recently? They
Yeah.
didn't give a shit about me. But
Yeah.
Jordan got cornered by like, I don't know, like 4 like chicks. They were just like,
Violinists.
how do you film your videos? Is it a camera?
Ah.
And then Jordan, I assume, would have been like, yeah, it's a camera. And they're like, stop holding the truth from us. It's not a camera. It's something else, you know?
They wanted to get involved.
Yeah, but support it.
That's good.
Just a normal person.
At the end of the day. Yeah, he's just a man who loves Tabasco.
Oh, yeah.
Singular bottle.
It's so fucked. Like, in anything that you ever get, right? Like, you get a souffle and you'd be like, do you have any chili?
Final question. Who do you think firebombed the house of Friendlyjordies?
Honestly, I have no idea. The police don't really have an idea. In fact, they kind of keep things... Just as a quick side point about that, this is why we're always just trying to make it very clear. Fixated Persons Unit, Praetorian Guard, total goon squad, funded by the state. Filled with dumbos with those kind of, who are we getting today, boss? Kind of, those idiots. And they fill it with that. That was a complete protection racket. The general New South Wales Police Force has always been extremely cooperative, extremely helpful. Sometimes my lawyer will say, all right, I think that's a bit incompetent that it's just staying at that level and it should go to this department. And then, like, he'll argue with the cops and they'll say, yeah, that's fine. And the whole way down, this case has been front and center to them because they see it as a very, very important political case. It's also particularly important to them because in New South Wales, the structure of that place, ready to be cancelled. Think about it. Think about this as a country, as a city, right? It's known as the place to do organised crime in the world because other places that you're doing it, like Russia or something like that, they're not as developed, they're much poorer. Here, you have a functioning state in the developed world that is very pro-friendly, very pro-crime.
Yeah.
Laundering and all that kind of stuff. In that environment, and it makes a lot of sense when you look at it, it's like it started off founded by convicts, and then immediately what happened after that, you get all the wogs coming in. Like myself, I get to say it. I've firmly stand by this. We should be banned from Parliament, never allowed in. None of my people, ever once, out. out you get. You should not be able to touch the fines of coffee because they have the attitude. I know the attitude myself. I can feel it every time. Every time someone ever goes to ICAC, it's always, I did it for my family. Every time. And every time in my head, I'm just like, it's his family. You leave this is family business. It's a thing. It's like, it's Italy, Lebanon, all these countries. You come from these countries and there's a different attitude to politics there. You go into politics to rot the system. And everybody there is just like, yeah, he made it in. Now it's his time to rot the system. That's how they think. That's the mentality of it. And so when you have a community that is just filled with convicts and mafia dons, that's what like founded New South Wales, really. Like, it's going to have a bad result. And so they realize like this is an opportunity really to like clean New South Wales up a lot. The police are really involved in this one.
Pat, is that true about Pat's surname's DeGilio?
So every time you're hearing the ICAC thing and they say, "Oh, this is for my family," what do you think every time?
I don't know. I just feel that like my family mafia blood start to boil, and I'm just like
You're dressed very Italian.
Yeah. Leave the men alone.
You're dressed very Italian. You got the chain.
Holy fuck! Dude, the button up pants with the belt and the fucking tag. And look at that. Look at the sickness all there.
Hey, let's not forget
The rings.
The rings.
My god, dude.
He's gonna be the next.
Please, can you start balding? Please, I really want that shoe horse.
I've got the receding hairline going. Don't worry.
Thank God.
He's our next.
Like asking that guy, what do you think about his views about the Italians in mafia?
He's our next local councillor. He's the one who turned this from a post office into an apartment block with a nice 20% cut for the DeGilios.
It is actually astonishing to me that every time they always say, "I did it for my family," and I swear it's just so embedded.
I've changed over yet.
It's so embedded in their reality that they actually think it's a good argument. They actually think that the public is going to sit there and empathise with that.
Yes.
When it's just like, fuck you, you just spent hundreds of millions of our dollars getting yourself re-elected. Fucking rot in jail. You know?
Jordies, we have to do this every year. I feel like once a year we come in, we check base, we make sure you're still alive, we make sure you're still doing well.
Thanks, man. Actually, just a quick side.
Yes.
How's comedy going for you? What's
Comedy Fest is going well. Yeah, so far so good. It's going good. I had to do a full run because they gave me a festival venue, so I'm doing a full run at Trades Hall.
So what's that? Like 30 days or something?
It's 23 nights. Yeah. Wow. We sold out last Friday night, which was great, and the shows so far have been really fun. So far so good. Did a random gig for M&M's on Monday, which was cool. It was like a sponsored M&M's gig where I just stole all these M&M's from the green room.
Is your face on one of those billboards?
No.
Oh, wouldn't that
I'm
be
not
great?
at that level.
With that little M&M with the high heels.
The one thing they said at the gig, they're like, don't mention the green M&M. Because that M&M got cancelled for being too sexy. So the whole gig in my head, I was like, don't mention the green. So sexy. So tempting. So, it's going good. It's going good. Yeah. Not as good as you. I'm not at the Comics Lounge, 5 nights in a row putting on extra shows. You might be the biggest comedian in Australia now. You and Luke Kidgel, I reckon, are going toe-to-toe in terms of...
I wish I had Luke Kidgel's life. Fuck his life, cunt. He's so I'm
he was here about 2 weeks
of that
ago.
Man. Like, dude, I had to die and literally lose my house and lose my house several times where people then thought, yeah, I'll get a ticket. And then all he has to do is just film himself on TikTok and like, oh, you work at KFC. You suck, dude. Millions of tickets.
He's cracked it. He's cracked the algorithm of just audience participation and him just being like, fuck you, and then it just blowing up.
You know what else what I'm very happy about with Luke Kidgel as well? He's kind of this... It's like he's our generation's version of it, but this forgotten relic of Australian comedy, which is relaxed Melbourne guy wearing a shirt.
Yeah.
He's that.
Yeah.
And it shows that... And I always think this about Luke and Lewis. I always think those guys should have got a much fairer run at Fox FM than they did.
Yeah.
And They had a dynamic going. They're both very quick,
Yes.
but it's not the right time for it. But
Yeah.
it is proof at both of their successes, actually, that Australian dynamic of kind of easygoing mates having a laugh is still... There's still a huge appetite for
Totally.
it. And for some reason, commercial enterprises can't see it. So I'm very happy that they're both doing very well
Yes.
for it. I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, once Lewis gets healthy again as well, I feel like he's going to be back on the right track.
Well, see, actually, now that I'm
He got that
into it-
nose thing. He had to get surgery on his nose and his whole jaw. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, he looks fucked.
He got
looks
it
like-
reconstructed.
There's this
He's
guy-
going to look real good in like 6 months, but,
But
we're,
not
in an
now.
we're in an intermittent phase. Yeah.
He looks like, I don't know if you remember this, miss, but we used to take a trip to our state library, and there was this colourful character in New South Wales history who was an executioner. And his name, how good is this? He had that slit nose like that midget in Game of Thrones. It's like, and they called him Nosy Bob. And he looks like the Grim Reaper. He has such a ghoulish face, but that's Lewis Spears now. But apparently
Lewis is-
after that, he's just going to come out and he'll look
Chisel
like
jaw.
Yeah. Like when Mr. Garrison got plastic surgery in South Park. No, dude, I'm getting it next year.
We'll
Fuck, as soon
have
as I start-
AI faces. It'll be sick. It'll be sick. Jordies, where are your shows? The Comics Lounge every night, 6:15 p.m.
Yeah, I think all those ones are sold. I've got some extra
Nice.
shows. Go to them.
Yeah. I'll come check you out.
Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, awesome. Miss Love, thanks so much for appearing on pod as well. Appreciate it.
With guest star appearance.
I'm Pat as well.
That was the true guest star appearance. Just,
What's the
can
last
you just
moment?
finish the podcast by just saying forget about it in an Italian accent? Forget about it. What a brilliant... Oh, man, that was...
And we're
You
out.
were amazing at that. So good. Again, it's genetic, isn't it? Forget about it.
Again, he's going to be a local council member.
He has to. Look at him.
He has to.
Isn't it amazing? It's so weird that just genetically... It's like when two twins... are separated like in North Korea and then they just come over the border and they're dressed exactly the same way. That is all the proof that you need that it's kind of like fashion is in the DNA.
Yeah, the pants, that's like custom. You had to get them from an Italian.
And these bowling shoes. Fuck yeah.
They can't be anywhere.
Yeah, mate, complete opshot fit. That's Melbourne.
As the only non-wog, I'm not going to comment on them.
Anyway, sorry. See you around.
See you around soon. Yeah, see you very soon. And have fun at the shows. And we're out.